My ex kicked me out mid-road trip. Now he demands I drive 2 states to return a watch he stashed in my bag to test me. Original post. So, yeah, like the title says, we were both remote workers and decided that we could try van life and see things while still working. We lasted about a month, and last week, he flipped out over the way I sipped my coffee and told me I had to leave. I thought he meant we would pack up and figure out how to get me home. No, he meant I needed to get out with all my things in the middle of a state park in New Mexico and figure it out. I was scared and pissed, so I hurriedly packed everything and got out. A very nice older couple had heard the screaming, saw me with a pile of my stuff, and asked if I needed help. I said yes, and they said they would drive me to Albuquerque in their RV, and we could figure out what would happen next. Well, it turns out they are the sweetest people ever. We eventually came to the conclusion it would be easier for me to travel with them home to Kansas. Now, they've allowed me to stay, paying them insanely fair rent, food, etc. I just have to edit the wife's book and help the husband with his guitar playing. Well, it turns out in the hurry of packing, I grabbed my ex's watch that was his dad's. I got in touch with him and told him I was sorry. It was truly an accident, and I had no intention of keeping it. How would he like me to get it to him? He said I needed to meet him in Utah. I said that was ridiculous. I could send it to him. He said that it was too valuable to trust to mail or FedEx and needed to be hand-delivered. I said I was in Kansas and not coming to Utah, but I would return the watch to his brother when I go home in March. He said no, the only solution was for me to drive it to him. I said I didn't even have a car. He said I was probably in Lawrence and should use one of theirs. At that point, I blocked him. The watch is pretty valuable and has a lot of sentimental value, and I will return it. It was my oversight that I have it in the first place. What are my obligations to follow his instructions to get the watch back to him? Edit. Wow, this blew up. For the people asking, it is a lower-end Rolex watch. It still has the original box and even the receipt from when his dad bought it, but it was well worn, so he's never been sure how much it's worth. I guess a few hundred, maybe 1,000? So I'm not sure. I'm not going to keep it or destroy it since it's not mine in any way. Top comments. Comment 1. You gave reasonable options. Let's say he files a police report that you stole it. You have proof that you contacted him and asked where you could send it. He declined. Comment 2. Dude sounds like a psychopath. Do not, under any circumstances, willingly meet up with him in person ever again. Don't let him know where you live. This douchery is a sign of something being very off, and you don't want to be there again when he short-circuits again. You were extremely lucky to have found the people you did. Who knows where you'd be if that had not happened? Update. So, I posted exactly a week ago. The short story was I was van living with my ex-boyfriend. He kicked me out after a temper tantrum, and I caught a ride with some awesome people. I discovered I had his dad's watch, which had lots of sentimental value. I told him and asked where I should send it. He demanded I drive from Kansas to Utah and return it, even though I don't have a car. Well, there was lots of mixed advice, but most people said the best option was to contact his brother. Before I did that, I decided to unblock my ex just to give him one more chance to give me an address where I could ship the watch. Actual text conversation. Me. Hey, I'm sorry I blocked you. I just didn't appreciate the insults, but I want to get his dad's watch back. Can you let me know where to send it? I'll pay for shipping, no problem. Him. Less than 30 seconds later, I stashed the watch in your bag because I wanted to prove to myself what an awful person you are, and you did a good job proving me right again. I was like, wow. So many people in the original post said that he probably put the watch in my stuff as I was packing in order to force communication and force the opportunity to see him again. Well, you were exactly correct. I didn't even respond to his text and blocked him again. I have no intention of keeping the watch, so I decided now it was time to contact his brother, who, along with his wife, has always been very nice to me. He was super appreciative, and we spent a couple of days going back and forth figuring out the shipping. But the watch arrived to him on Friday, and all is good. He even Venmo'd me $1,000 for being so honest, contacting him, etc. I make really good money, so I told him it wasn't necessary at all, but he insisted. So, we agreed to donate it to a food pantry here in Lawrence. But I'm still so creeped out thinking about the day when he kicked me out of the van. He was screaming at me, calling me all sorts of names, and apparently planning how to stay in touch with me. He was slamming all my stuff into bags, but that was cover for him hiding the watch. The fact that it was so deliberate, yet he thought of it so quickly, is so scary to me. We got along so well before we left, and he always seemed like such a great guy. I don't know if the confined space of the van is too much for any couple or if it brought out a side of him I didn't know was there. It makes me sad and scared at the same time, but relieved it's over. Relevant comments. Comment 1. He framed you to prove to himself that you were awful? He's dumb enough to fall for his own frame job. I really, truly can't wrap my head around how stupid he must be. Comment 2. What I don't get is his logic that this would prove OP is a bad person. How was she supposed to know about the watch when you kicked her ass out in a state she didn't know? She found out about it only after she got to safety, possibly thousands of miles away. Like, you thought she was just going to be running back to you? That dude. Comment 3. I think in his bats hit crazy mind, she was bad for not instantly heading to Utah to return it. He's clearly insane. Now, to the next story. Story 2. The son's behavior is starting to creep me out, but I'm not sure if it's actually inappropriate or just a cultural difference. Original post. Hey there. Using a throwaway just in case. So, I'm from the US and recently moved to Italy to be a nanny. I feel this is important because, so far, I have not been able to tell if I'm struggling with a cultural difference here in Italy or if I actually have reason to be weirded out. It is easy to tell that the son, Marco, is in middle school as he is already several inches taller than me and his mom and has maybe 30 pounds on me. When I first got here, some of the stuff that freaked me out a little I could handle, and I chalked it up to being an Italy thing. This includes stuff like talking almost exclusively in a baby voice when addressing his parents, calling his parents mommy and daddy, fighting physically with his little sister over who gets to sit on mom's and dad's laps multiple times throughout the day, fighting with the sister over who gets to sleep with the parents, getting extremely upset when mom or dad leaves for the day, whining about not getting enough kisses or time laying in bed kissing with mom, and having his parents blow on chewed food in his mouth because it's too hot. Now, I really don't want to be critical of this if it's normal here, you know? But in the US, I seriously can't imagine a single 7th grade boy engaging in any of these behaviors, so it's really new to me. And really, it hadn't affected me, so I just let it be. The problem is, though, that now I'm starting to get involved, and it's making me really uncomfortable. For example, our rooms have adjacent windows, which allows the kids to see into my entire room at all times. To me, this is pretty inappropriate. What am I supposed to do when I need to change clothes? But I also don't want to seem like I am sexualizing children or accusing them of anything. So, I just politely asked for curtains and took to changing in the bathroom. After weeks without curtains, the family finally promised me that someone was coming to put them up. Well, he only put them in the kids' room. Ever since then, I find Marco peeping through the curtains at me multiple times a day. Now, I'm sure he is just checking on me or curious about what I'm up to, but it makes me so uncomfortable. I didn't want to tell the family, though, because I was afraid they would think I was accusing their baby of trying to spy on me changing. So, I just took matters into my own hands and hung a blanket up over my window. Another issue has been when we stay at the kids' grandparents' house. There's a room for the parents with a bed for one child, and a room for me with a bed for one child. I figured we would split up boys and girls, and I would stay with the daughter. But nighttime rolls around, and Marco is crawling into the bed next to mine. I was so uncomfortable I could hardly sleep. I have talked to my friends at home about this, and they all think it's really weird because we aren't related and he's a teenager now. But this is, of course, an American opinion, so I can't tell for sure if we're imposing our ideas on this family. Again, if this is really a cultural thing, though, I don't know how to tell the family that where I'm from, it's kind of inappropriate for a boy so old to be sleeping next to me, especially when he's been spying on me lately, without causing issues. Of course, these behaviors affect other aspects of our life as well. It is hard to get Marco to do anything because he usually claims it's too hard. Making his bed? Too hard. Are you kidding? I often find myself wanting to tell him to grow up. What I need help with is knowing whether he does need to grow up, or if all this behavior is normal here and I'm the crazy American that needs to adjust. Is this behavior normal for a 12-year-old, or is it immature? I feel like the parents still really see him as a young child, and usually, he acts like it. But, for the most part, it seems like he plays up the baby act because he knows it makes his parents cater to him more. If this all is abnormal, does anyone have any suggestions about how to bring this up to the family? Edit. Just want to clarify that at the grandparents' house, there are 2 beds, and they are next to each other. Marco was not in my bed, but in the bed next to mine. TLDR. I am a nanny for a 13-year-old boy whose behavior makes me uncomfortable. I'm not sure if he is actually being inappropriate or if there is just a large cultural difference between my home country and this country. Relevant comments. Commenter. It's normal behavior for a spoiled 13-year-old. Of course, most adolescents would want to peek at you through the curtains. The problem is the parents. They have to stop that right now. Don't you have authority as a nanny to scold him? I'm Spanish. We have a very similar culture to Italy, and that is inappropriate. The parents are educating a horrible child that will grow up to be an adult that thinks the world should cater to him. Opie. Oh my goodness, the relief I am feeling right now to know that this isn't normal. So far, I have not particularly felt like I have much authority because the times I would scold him, the parents are sitting right there. How can I reprimand him in front of his own parents? I didn't include this in the post, but he is already showing major signs of being in. He's always so rude, critical, and ungrateful. Every meal I make, he has something to insult about it. He treats his little sister like, even though she is a doll and often acts more mature than him. And he loves ordering me around and telling me what I'm doing wrong. It drives me up the wall. Commenter. We've established this kid's behavior is weird, but WTF at the parents responding to your request for privacy/curtains by giving them to the child? Opie. I have no clue. They've been really weird about some stuff. Like, this is TMI, but the mom knew I was on my period because I had to ask her where to buy tampons here. We got to the house, and there's no trash can in the bathroom or in my room. I asked for one multiple times, and she said she would get one and never did. When I asked last, she said, well, the kids have a trash can in their room if you need it. Like, WTF? Are you not an adult woman? Do you not understand how this works? Commenter. Do the parents discipline the kids? Opie. I asked about discipline when I interviewed, and they said they don't really have to discipline the kids. I should have taken it as a warning sign, honestly. The mom is very strict about some stuff, so they're very good in certain areas that she deems important, like etiquette and cleanliness. But when Marco picks on the daughter, they just let the kids yell and scream and cry until I step in. They also seem to encourage many of Marco's rude comments because technically, he does word them politely. For example, I will bust my ass making a meal for the whole family to be kind and helpful, even though it is not in my job description, and Marco will eat 4 plates of it, and then say, I'm sorry, but why would you cook this like that? And I'll say, that's how we cook it in the US. And he'll say, well, I didn't like it. The Italian way is much better. And then put his plate on mine for me to take it to the kitchen and leave. No, thanks for cooking. No, but I did like this part, just insult. Clean my plate. Bye. He loves to criticize. Commenter. Is the child autistic? Opie. I thought about autism initially, but I'm fairly certain it isn't that because when his parents are gone, the baby act completely turns off, and he acts like any other teenager I have ever known, though he is manipulative and critical. And I have worked in childcare, in the classroom, and as a coach for years now. Update. Hi all, I'm back. Yeesh, how long has it been? 3 or 4 months later with an update. Long story short, I quit. Here's the long version for those interested. The curtain issue. Like I said in my last post, I had just hung a blanket for privacy, and since then, there have been no peeping issues. I asked 2 more times for curtains, and was reassured both times that the curtain man would come to hang them in my room. He did come back once and hung more curtains in the kids' room, but again, not in mine. Then I was told that they didn't like him and would be finding another curtain guy to hang my curtains. It's been 4 months, no more mention of it. I still use the blanket. The vacation issue. I have simply refused to go on vacation with them. I'm off on weekends, and I've reached a point where I just refuse to be home for the entire weekend and manage not to see them from Friday night until Monday morning if I can help it. I go on weekend trips, crash on couches, and sneak into my room when they're eating, doing things like that just to avoid seeing anyone on my days off. The Marco issue. Marco still acts extremely immaturely. I've warmed up to him a lot, and I figured out how to curb his rudeness and such. He's become a lot more positive and kind, especially because his mom has been gone a lot, and he's with me every day. I'm very upbeat and have worked really hard to get him to socialize and speak kindly. Unfortunately, he seems to have almost regressed in terms of his childish behavior. He still sits on laps, kisses a lot, and sleeps with a parent when the other is gone. The baby talk is constant. For example, he loves to repeat back butchered syllables of words, if that makes sense. Like, his dad will say, "Passami un cucchiaio," and he will clap and exclaim, "Eo." Or his dad asks if he wants water, "Vuoi dell'acqua?" and he'll go, "Qua qua." He also has started eating kind of like a baby too. Like, he'll take the remaining tomato sauce that we used on pasta and use the giant spoon to drink it out of the pot, get it all over his face, and then suck on each of his fingers. But when I look at his parents, They're looking at him like when you see a cute baby trying to use a fork and getting food on his face. But he's 13, so it's honestly sickening to watch and listen to. He won't lock the door when he goes to the bathroom or showers. Why? I started locking the door when I was like 7. And he even cried the other day when his sister sat on the foot of his bed because he doesn't like things touching his bed. And guess what? The parents got mad at the daughter. They said it was her fault for baiting him, even though she just had to tie her shoe for a second. They declared that it's her fault. Marco will be upset all night. He also hasn't made any progress with friends and has taken to playing League of Legends. So he won't leave his room or do any activities or lessons with me or the sister. It's pretty sad, honestly. Basically, the hardest part of this whole thing has been the mother. I won't even go into it here, but she's honestly clinically insane, and I feel so bad for all the people in this house that have to put up with her. She's just a power-hungry, jealous, bitter woman who needs to see a professional. Basically, I went home for Christmas to be with my friends and family and realized how bad this experience was for my health. I was going out drinking almost every night to escape the house. I was sleeping horribly because I knew she was here, and her presence gave me awful anxiety. I was getting yelled at every day, even when I did nothing wrong. I was at home in the States, and the thought of going back made me absolutely miserable. So, when I came back, I told them I needed to go back early for medical reasons, which was not totally untrue, and now I'm set to leave the last week of March. They found a new girl. Look out for her post here sometime in the future. TLDR, Marco is still acting like a baby. The mom is still crazy, and I quit. Homies, get me out of here. Thank you for watching. If you haven't subscribed yet, please do so and hit the notification bell to stay updated with more shocking real-life stories happening around you.